concern or matters of national importance, if I can say. We are powered by Protea Hotel by Marriott in Entebbe, a wonderful place to go to as we head to the weekends and all those other days. Please make sure you book yourself a place at Protea Hotel by Marriott in Entebbe. They have wonderful services. You can contact them. The numbers are just down there below your screen. So I want to appreciate you. Yes, I hope you had some wonderful moments in Good Morning Family. Here we are to continue with issues at hand. And yes, we are still talking about the release of the primary living examinations and what it means in all other different sectors, and of course the general performance. So today we're going to be talking about performance and grading of the P7 candidates with disabilities. And here with me is an inclusive education officer from NUDIPU, Ms. Seera Leah Diana. It is a pleasure to have you this morning.
It's my pleasure to be hosted at Family TV. Thank you so much.
All right, please start by greeting our people out there so that we can kick off.
My name is Seera Leah Diana from the National Union of Disabled Persons of Uganda, NUDIPU. Good morning, viewers.
Wow, it's a pleasure. Now, as I said, the topic is performance and grading of these candidates. Majorly right now, we are looking at P7 because it is what we have so far. Can we first talk about the performance? How were our fellows able to perform generally, if we are to look at the recently released examinations?
Thank you so much. According to UNEP, the statistics that we have gotten, we had 3,328 learners with disabilities sit for examination, and that has improved. The numbers have improved. It has increased compared to the 2,625 that sat in 2003. The performance overall for learners with disabilities in 2024 has improved. Not only the enrollment, but the performance has improved. In the previous years, that is 2023, we had so many ungraded deaf learners, that is 119. When we look at this year's performance, we only have 66 ungraded deaf learners or learners with hearing impairment. So looking at the overall picture, the performance has improved a lot. And when we talk about grading, UNEP is an inclusive entity. It supports learners with disabilities with reasonable accommodation at the time of writing exams. They ensure that these learners are registered early, their needs are forwarded to UNEP early. So when they are sitting exams, UNEP gives them reasonable accommodation. By reasonable accommodation, I mean learners that cannot write, that are dyslexic, learners that have physical impairment on the hands and can't use their feet to write, are given support, transcribers, people who write on their behalf, but they write their thoughts. UNEP gives them extra time of 45 minutes to write their exams. UNEP gives them sign language interpreters to be able to interpret what the invigilator is saying in the room. And that gives us an upper hand when it comes to UNEP. So it does not start with the grading, it starts from the preparation.
And that's why I want us to go and see the state of inclusive education in our system so far, compared maybe to the years. How is it right now? What is the state like?
The state right now is a state where we have done a lot of awareness raising in the communities, a lot of advocacy at the national level. Yes, a lot of lobbying has been done by both CSOs, NGOs, organizations of persons with disabilities, the ministry itself, the Ministry of Education. We hold annual symposiums to do awareness raising. We have platforms. We are invited in Parliament. The Commission of Education invites us to speak about issues of special needs. So the environment right now is promising. There is a lot of awareness raising, and through awareness raising, a lot of changes happen.
So how was it before?
In the years back, something was being done, but at a slower pace.
Oh.
Yes, but for now, as I speak right now, the system is going inclusion. Yes.
What has been NUDIPU's role in this step?
NUDIPU, the National Union of Disabled Persons of Uganda, our vision is we envision a society where persons with disabilities live a dignified and prosperous life.
Okay.
And education is one of the aspects that helps us live a dignified life. NUDIPU has done advocacy at all levels to ensure that persons with disabilities are included in all the social aspects, socio-economic aspects of life. We have done advocacy around policy changes. We have done advocacy, but also do showcase best practices. When it comes to education, NUDIPU has programs that are running. We have the Together for Inclusion program, and we have the Leave No One Behind program that is implementing inclusive education. In these areas, we do not stop at advocacy in policies to ensure that the system, the education system, is inclusive in nature, but we have also showcased best practices in about 90 pilot schools that we work in by training the teachers to be able to support these learners, by raising awareness to the communities to send learners with disabilities and support them in school, by also training the children, the peers, to support their fellows in schools. We have basically done a lot of advocacy, lobbying, and awareness raising activities. Yes. Okay.
Are the resources enough to make sure that we facilitate this inclusive education?
The government of Uganda has allocated a budget to inclusive education to the Department of Special Needs. We are thankful for that portion that has been allocated, but resources in our context have never been enough. Yes, they are not enough, but at least they are doing something to ensure that lives of children with disabilities change by providing skilled training, trained teachers to the schools. Actually, of late, the public service has advertised for teaching officers of special needs in secondary school, and that is a good move for us, because there was a very big gap in secondary schools, that when learners finish primary, transiting to secondary schools, things are not as easy as the primary level, because all stakeholders have been doing a lot of work around ECD, that is early development, early childhood development, and primary, but transiting to secondary has been a challenge. When we see government advertising for positions of teachers with skills to support learners with special needs, it is a plus for us in our advocacy.
Okay. Yes. And maybe how about these schools where you find it caters for all, like everyone, not just the specialized institutions for specifically for disabilities? How do learners cope up in such an environment?
Actually, that is our advocacy as NUDIPU, because we know that the specialized schools are not so many and are based at regional levels. Yet we have learners that may not afford to go to the special schools. So our advocacy is to ensure that the mainstream schools are set in a way that they can receive all learners. And we see that government has received this very well. They are supporting the cause of ensuring that all learners are able to achieve education within their communities. Yes, and in our advocacy, we have advocated for teachers that can support these learners, for reasonable accommodation in terms of materials to use in classes. For example, braille machine for learners with visual impairment. It is a very expensive item that a parent may not afford. At the moment, the market price is 3.8 million for just one machine for one learner to use. So government has supported with the budget that the Department of Special Need has to give these items to the mainstream schools to ensure that learners within those schools are able to access education.
Okay.
Same for the teachers that can support the instructors that can support learners with hearing impairment. Yes, it is an advocacy agenda that we shall continue, but the results that we are seeing actually empower us to do more.
Yeah.
Yes.
True. What are these common challenges learners with disabilities do face?
Yes.
Majorly in these institutions.
Yeah. Learners with disabilities that go to mainstream schools, first of all, face stigma, especially in schools where awareness raising has not been done. They face stigma, and it comes from all sides, starting from the community to the teacher that is going to support them and to the peers in the school. Yes, that is one of the problems, and it is a big one. Stigma kills someone's self-esteem, and learning cannot take place in such an environment. We have a shortage of specialized teachers to support learners with specific learning needs. When you look at the UNEP release, you see that learners with dyslexia, the numbers are increasing. So if there is no teacher to be able to assess, to identify and screen such a learner, they are not attended to. So the challenge we have is the shortage of those teachers in the schools. Though Kyambogo University has trained many of them and they are out there, they have not yet been placed in the schools to support these learners. We have shortage of assistive devices. Among them, these include wheelchairs, they include white canes, they include the different aids that learners need for their mobility and to access learning. Yeah, we have challenges of parents facilitating these learners. Most of them, when we do advocacy, they think we are also going to give the school fees and other requirements. So they think a child with a disability belongs to either the government or an NGO or a church entity, things like that. So we still have gaps in those areas. We also have gaps with the learning and reading materials, the learning aids, like I said, the braille, the sign language charts, and there's so many other technologies that learners with disabilities need to access learning.
Yes. Is the advocacy enough, the sensitization, majorly to address the issue of stigmatization?
The advocacy we are doing, I cannot say it is enough. It is always continuous. Yes, we do not say it is enough, because someone once asked me, NUDIPU has been in existence for the last 37 years. You're talking about issues of persons with disabilities. Don't they come to an end? But every day we meet someone who learns something new about disability.
That's true.
Yes. For example, accessibility. People don't take it serious. When you look at most buildings in Kampala, you will see there is a ramp that takes you to the building. But when you enter the building, the lift is not functional, and all that is there are the stairs. But they will show there is some accessibility. So such challenges make us continue to advocate for the rights of persons with disabilities, especially in the communities, at national level and all levels that we go to. So awareness raising cannot be enough, but it is continuous and consistent. Yeah, and it must be done by both organizations of persons with disabilities and other stakeholders. Yes, like the church is doing now. It is very, very, I don't know, for lack of words, it is very good.
All right.
I've seen the Braille version of the Bible. That is very interesting about the Church of Uganda. I've seen the sign language interpreters in church.
Yes.
That is very special about the Church of Uganda, and I pray that other churches go to that level of inclusion.
Wow, that's great. And now let's talk about the grading of these candidates. When they have submitted their papers, how is their grading? Is it different, or it is the same with their peers?
It is the same. Reasonable accommodation is given for them to be able to sit the exams. It is given for them to be able to be prepared for the exams. But when it comes to marking and grading, all learners are graded the same way.
The same way?
Yes.
Is that fair?
It is fair because we are advocating for equity. Equity comes in best when it comes to you prepare the person to sit for this examination. The grading is fair. The only challenge is with the curriculum. If it is not accessible to these learners, that is when unfairness comes in, especially for learners who cannot comprehend, learners with, let us say, cognitive challenges, who may not be able to comprehend mathematics, who may not be able to do the other subjects. That is where the unfairness comes in, that the curriculum has to be accessible to everyone to be able to benefit from it. But when it comes to grading, that is the standard that they have set. Your neighbor assumes they are prepared enough to be able to write their exams. So it is at the level of curriculum where we should come in to ensure that the curriculum is accessible for everyone. Yes.
Now I'm looking at this new secondary lower curriculum.
Yes.
Is it favorable, or it is still also not?
The secondary lower curriculum is very favorable for all learners, including learners with disabilities. Yes, because it is a competence-based and the results are cumulative in nature. So a learner is prepared in that way to be able to sit for their exams. So such a curriculum is a very inclusive curriculum for all learners.
Okay. Is there any way these learners with disabilities at a certain point feel maybe disadvantaged by the system?
Yes. Yes.
And what is being done to address that?
What is being done to address the disadvantages? It is the continuous advocacy to ensure that systems change to be able to accommodate these learners, not the learners to change to fit within the systems. For example, a curriculum like the lower secondary curriculum is a change of system to accommodate everyone with their abilities, which is good, because for you to support a learner with a disability, you must meet their individual needs. And there are very many categories of disabilities, and these include categories like physical. A person with a physical disability will need another kind of support from a person with a visual impairment. Under visual impairment, we have the totally deaf people and we have people with low vision. They also have different needs. We have the hearing impairment or disability, which also has the deaf and the hard of hearing. The deaf will benefit from sign language. The hard of hearing will benefit from captioning, so that they are able to participate. So persons with disabilities have different needs. We have a category of the deaf blind. They have totally different needs. To be able to meet their education, you need to use a lot of tactile. You use both tactile to be able to meet their education needs. We have people with mental disabilities. We have here under the mental, we have those with psychiatric needs, and we have those with learning difficulties, where the people with dyslexia fall. We have people with multiple disabilities. So for reasonable accommodation in education, one must assess, must be able to screen this person and meet their individual needs. So that is where the challenge comes in, that the system is struggling to meet each one's need. And that is a journey that we have started to be able to walk towards total inclusion in education.
I'm also looking at this child seated in for examination. Isn't that the same procedure of also selecting the kind of accommodation they would need, like assessing their disability type or the kind they're in?
So normally,
the accommodation they are given majorly when they are sitting for examinations.
Yes, when they are going to sit for the examination, accommodation is not given on that very day. UNEB asks the schools to submit the lists of children that need support. UNEB walks down to the schools, does the assessment, and sees, yes, they say Diana has a physical disability, but does she need any support during examination? They will assess that, and if I have a physical disability but I do not need any support, they will keep my data and I will appear among others who do not, yes, they have disabilities or special needs but do not need the support. If they assess and find that you do need support, especially with a transcriber, person that will write your exams, with a sign language interpreter, or with the 45 minutes, then they will give you the support you need. Yes, that is how UNEB is meeting the individual needs of the learners.
Okay.
However, like I said, UNEB assesses.
Yes.
It does not prepare them to do the exams. It is the school,
that
the community,
prepares.
and the family.
Okay. What policies are there to protect or to ensure fairness in learning between amongst these persons?
We start with the Constitution of the Government of the Republic of Uganda. The Constitution has a clause. The Constitution has a clause that talks about education for all as a right. That protects the rights of persons with disabilities to learn. We have the international laws, the CRPD, that also talks about the rights of persons with disabilities to learn. We have the Sustainable Development Goal 4 that talks about equitable education. We have the education policies, the UPE policy, that talks about 4 children, but among them there should be a child with a disability. Then at the moment we have one that is in draft, and that is the National Inclusive Education Policy that is still at cabinet level, waiting to be passed. In November last year, the Minister of State, Honorable Muyingo, promised that by beginning of this year they will have done something towards passing of that policy. Yes.
Okay. How have these policies been of help in meeting fairness?
In meeting fairness, the policies have been of help because it begins with training the teacher to support the learners. It is through policy. Even the teacher policy is inclusive in nature. It is through policy that we are able to get the institutions prepare these teachers to support all learners, including the learners with disabilities and special needs. So these policies have been very important in preparation, starting from preparing the teacher to support this learner, provision of assistive devices, ensuring that the environments are accessible. Actually, the government gives a fund to a school with learners with special needs, especially the mainstream schools that we talked about. Those that are not special schools are given a subvention grant to support learners with disabilities within the school. These learners with disabilities receive the UPE fund, but on top of the UPE fund, they do receive a subvention grant to support their needs in school. So schools that have learners with disabilities and special learning needs need to register them and write to the ministry of the need for support. So we see that the environment is enabling, though we still have gaps.
So I actually wanted to ask how effective the government has been in ensuring that assessment and inclusive policies are made.
Yes, the government has made the beautiful policies. When you look at the UPE policy about the 4 children plus the one that must have a disability, that is an enabling environment. And through such policies and implementing them, the government is supporting education for all.
Okay.
But like I said, resources can never be enough. So that is why we continue lobbying. That is why we continue advocating. That is why we continue showing them gaps. That yes, UPE is accepting these learners and they are being supported with a subvention grant. However, the human resource is not enough to support these learners. Yes, the ratio, teacher-student ratio, is not balancing. The learners are so many and have special needs, they cannot benefit from a crowd. Actually, at one point, they need an individualized education plan to be able to achieve in education. So at the moment, most of them are present in some schools that are not well facilitated. They are just present, but learning is not taking place.
Okay. And the rural schools seem to be affected much.
Yes.
In inclusivity. How is that being addressed?
That is very true. Rural schools are actually affected so much because in most cases when you look at rural schools, they are the most crowded schools. They are the most accessible to the community. Yes, and for that reason, they are crowded. If you send one braille machine for about 20 learners, that is insufficient. So our plea is that more human resource be sent, especially to support these learners with special learning needs and disabilities, and more accessibility is made.
All right. Now that's interesting. We are talking about performance and grading of the recently released examinations, but of course generally we want to see how the grading is done, but also we had an overview about the performance that was given, majorly delivered by these primary 7, because these are the results that we have at hand right now. So it is very important that inclusive education flourishes here in Uganda, because this is the way to go, and we are glad the results keep promising each year, and then we see an addition to that. Well, we are going for a very short break and return with more of this discussion.
Issues at hand, powered by
Protea Hotel by Marriott Entebbe. Comfort and luxury at its best.
This is Church of Uganda Family TV. Enriching lives. Regulated by the Uganda Communications Commission. This is Church of Uganda Family TV. Enriching lives. Regulated by the Uganda Communications Commission. Issues at hand, powered by
Protea Hotel by Marriott Entebbe. Comfort and luxury at its best.
Welcome back. You're still watching Issues at Hand here on Church of Uganda Family TV, and today we're talking about performance and grading of the P7 candidates, the results that we saw, how the performance was, and also what the grading is like. What we have understood so far, the grading and marking is similar to any other person, so there is no special way. Only that there is accommodation given, free. Some minutes are added to these learners, especially when they are sitting for the examinations, and also additional accommodation can be given in, like a braille, like also an interpreter or a sign language, people like that. So all that is given so that these people can have fair, inclusive education. So those are the advantages that do come in. But of course, the government has done quite a number of things. Just like we have been hearing from Leah here, Diana, who is the Inclusive Education Officer at NUDIPU here to discuss with us here. And it is a pleasure that you've given us a number of insights in this regard. And now I want to look at something that can be done more, because yes, performance is good compared to the past, but this is not where we want to settle, right? Yeah. So right. What more can be done?
What more can be done is for the community to get involved. As the government prepares the teachers, as the government gives us a reasonable accommodation in the schools to ensure that the schools are accessible, to ensure that we have the devices needed, assistive devices for the learners, the community has to participate. The parents have the duty to work with the government to ensure that their children go to school. When we look at most children that are out of school are children with disabilities, because community is still stigmatizing the families of these persons with disabilities, and the parents themselves are not supportive enough to take the children to school. They may decide to take this child last or when the resources do allow. So there is a lot of work that we need to do with the community and the parents to ensure that these children go to school. In one area I was advocating for inclusive education, and a person made a comment that if our ordinary children are not going to school, do you expect us to take children with disabilities to school? And what happens if we take them to school and there are no resources? So I advise them, take them to the school. The school will find a way of supporting them. That is where advocacy will start, because we shall have about 5 in the school who are deaf and need to be attended to in a mainstream school. That is where advocacy will start. When the inspectors of school come in and these children are not participating, there will be a question, there will be a problem that they need to solve. But if we keep them in the homes and not take them to school, there is no problem to solve, because the schools will be ordinary and normal, and there is nothing, business as usual will be taking place. But if we, as the community, as the parents, take the children to school, there will be a need to act. Yes, on how to support these learners. Actually, it is very, very common, majorly in rural areas. You find children with disabilities are always home, and it is a very common practice. They do not take them to school. I don't know if they don't know that these people are supposed to be in school, or it is their, it is the what is at schools. Maybe the condition is not favoring them, and then the parents choose to let them be in the homes. Some of the reasons the children may not be taken to school, one, like you've said, parents are not aware that children with disabilities can learn and achieve. However, some say when they take them to school and they are redundant, they get tired and the children stop going to school because there is no learning, there is no support in the schools. And then others think that they should only go to the special schools. If the special school is not within their reach, they will keep the child home. But we are advocating for inclusive education, that these children can go to the nearby school in their community and achieve through learning. And others are just still stigmatized. They are still under the trauma of having had a child with a disability. They really don't want community to know that they have had such a member in their family.
Okay.
So they would rather hide and keep them away from the eye of the community. Yes.
And what, maybe you can elaborate more on what the communities can do in order to be supportive to this kind of person, this child.
Community plays a very big role, especially when it comes to inclusion. First of all, by accepting the children and then giving the support that is needed for this child to thrive within a community. In the olden days, all of us belonged to our communities. So if communities notices a child that is seated at home during the school hours, they should be able to act. The LC1 chairpersons, the neighbors, to ensure that this parent takes this child to school. They should be able to give support. For example, when it comes to peer support, as the other children are going, they normally support this learner with a wheelchair or a learner with crutches to ensure that they move together. A learner that is blind, to ensure that they lead them to school. So community plays such roles to ensure that they are concerned, why is this child still at home? To ensure that they are concerned, why is this child on the street begging while others are in school? Because some community members have become so ruthless that they use children with disabilities to make money. They take them to the streets to beg, which is not okay. Because we are abusing their rights to education, their rights to a safe place by putting them on the streets. So if community supports, if everyone is concerned, when they see an out-of-school child and they are concerned, why is this child not in school, then we shall have support from the community system.
Okay. And maybe looking at them in the school environment, are there policies that maybe protect them against stigmatization and all those practices against them?
These are normally policies made at school level. Yeah, what are the school particular policies about inclusion? For example, if the school raises awareness on peer support, where learners support each other, children get to a point where they do not stare and laugh, but they stare and give support. They stare looking at the need that you have. Yes, by the time they come to you, they know I will have to support this child in a wheelchair, access these areas that they cannot access. I need to be a sighted guide to a visually impaired child. I need to learn sign language to communicate to a deaf learner. So in schools where we've implemented inclusive education and children are part of the school inclusion team, these ones are doing very well. In schools where awareness has not been done, the children still ridicule, mock, and bull learners that are not developing the way they are. Yes, because of the disabilities. So I think awareness raising should be continuous in schools, in communities, to ensure that such habits, discriminatory habits, stigmatizing habits, are not in the schools. Yes.
Actually, you did mention about stigmatization, majorly not even only by the fellow learners, but by the teachers. Do those ones also have policies that can discipline them?
Yes, they have policies.
Because I feel a teacher is at a way bigger stage to start mocking someone. Yeah,
actually, most of the teachers that do that are not aware. They will call a child by their disability. They will call a child with hydrocephalus, you big head, because they are not yet aware. They have not been sensitized. But a teacher that has been sensitized will call a child in a wheelchair by their name, Diana. Yes, they will be able to support learners. But like sensitization, awareness raising is a process. We are trying to reach everyone to be able to let them know that it is important to call a person with disability by name, to support them instead of stigmatizing them.
There's too much technology now everywhere, digitalization here and there. So how can technology be leveraged in the systems, maybe to ensure much more inclusive education. Yes.
Actually, you cannot separate technology and inclusive education. When we come to inclusive education, disability and technology are so related that you cannot separate them.
Okay.
For education, you will need a lot of technologies to ensure that the learners achieve. When it comes to the blind learners, they will need a lot of technology. When we talk about education, it is not only primary, but up to tertiary institutions. The learners will need a lot of devices. Normally, the Braille machine is used at starter level, where they have to learn to read the dots. But thereafter, they go to using computers. They need to understand how to access the computers, and the blind learners have a software called JAWS that needs to be inserted in their computers so that they are able to listen in. It is a talking device. Yes, they have many technologies that they need. Yes, technology does not only stop at school, but they will need to use it even when they come to buildings like this. They will know that this is a lift. They need to use the technology there. They need to use the technology at the ATM machines. So technology and disability are one. It is very important that even in education, starting from primary, we start using the technology so that they are able to access information through the different channels.
Okay.
Yes.
Isn't it too hard for them to do practicals, majorly in science subjects?
Science subjects are quite challenging for only the visually impaired learners. Yes, they have challenges, especially when it comes to practicals, the chemistry, the biology, and the physics. However, visually impaired learners are very intelligent when it comes to the arts. Yes. The other categories, apart from those who are having some intellectual challenges, the other categories are doing very well in the sciences. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, that's interesting to hear, and that a lot is being done in that regard. So, what is NUDIPU's vision in regards to the future of inclusive education here in our country?
NUDIPU is envisioning a society where all schools are accessible to all learners. We hope that by 2030, that is our vision, all schools will be accessible to all learners. We are envisioning a school that has teachers that will be able to support all categories of learners. Because when we speak about inclusive education, we do not say that in this school A, there will only be learners that are visually impaired. But they will all show up, and the teachers will need to support them. If it is a UPE school in a community, you will receive the albinos, you will receive children with epilepsy, you will receive little persons, you will receive the blind learners, you will receive the deaf learners. The deaf blind will come in. So it is, when I talk about physical, I might be limiting, but we have children with cerebral palsy under the physical. We have amputated children. We have children with different deformities. All those will come in one school. And all those will need to be given the support that is required for them to be able to access education. So we are envisioning a school that is able to support all those people as they come in, without saying your disability cannot be handled in this area. We are not able to support you in this community that you come from, because an ordinary child is able to go to any school of their choice. That is what we want. We envision to see by 2030. That is what we envisioning to see as NUDIPU. We are envisioning to seeing schools that are accessible, the walkways that are accessible, toilets that are accessible, wash facilities, the water tanks, are they accessible to learners with disabilities? For example,
even the buildings themselves.
Even the buildings, yes. If we do not say do not build the skyscrapers, build them but make them accessible.
Yeah.
We are actually envisioning universal education that is accessible for everyone. Okay. Not only at ECD or primary level, but at all levels of education. And we envision a society where affirmative action has increased for all learners. Yes, the government is still giving us about 63 slots for affirmative action. Those learners that have performed well to go and study free in the universities, but we feel that is not enough.
That is little.
We really need, because during the Global Summit, the commitment was made that we shall get about 360 slots in the next 5 years, but the 5 years are coming to an end. We've not had government declare that. So it is one of the things we are lobbying for, to ensure that those affirmative action slots are increased. So we are envisioning all education institutions, including universities, tertiary institutions, very accessible for everyone to be able to achieve in education. Yes.
Wow. And looking at the education back again in schools, because I think this is where much work is done in schools. How cooperative are these institutions, maybe those that you've reached out to as an organization?
Interestingly, when you reach out to the institutions, they're like, wow, we did not know we are discriminating a certain category of learners. What can we do to be better? We've not gotten resistance from institutions that we go to. They actually ask us, what do you want us to do to be inclusive, to be better? So that means some things are done because people are not aware. Yes. Someone builds a school and only puts steps because they've not thought of another category of persons that may come in a wheelchair or using crutches. But if you talk about it, you're able to work together. They ask for the standards to be able to make the schools accessible. It is quite costly to modify than doing it at the beginning, inception. Thinking about inclusion at inception is the best way to go than modifying. But it is important to modify because it will make the premises of the schools accessible.
Okay.
Yes.
And it is very strong. Is in there regulation, by the way? Maybe from government or these specific ministries, when someone is setting up a school, aren't there supposed to be guidelines there to follow?
Yeah, there
for
are
inclusive
guidelines.
education.
There are guidelines for inclusive education. Actually, the Ministry of Education with partners, implementing partners, CSOs, have come up with the standard guidelines of constructing a school. And when you go to the Ministry of Education website and look for the guidelines for construction or making a school accessible, they are there. Yes.
Okay, and because I'm giving a flashback to the schools I were, and these are high buildings, but there is no provision of
there is no provision. That is why we keep advocating, we keep raising awareness, and we are very grateful for such platforms where we are able to talk about these things to the nation to be able to change attitudes of whoever is planning to put up any investment to ensure that it is inclusive in nature. Because as much as the government is ensuring that all the premises put up by government are accessible, but we would love to also go to private schools. I personally, if I was a child, I would want to go to Kampala Parents and be able to access the entire school. I would love to go to Aga Khan, to any other school, not basically a UPE school, which is a good school also, but I would want to make a choice of a school I want to go to and should be accessible, and I do not want to stop at the gate. I want to be able to access everywhere, including the wash facilities. Those are the water taps, the toilets, yes, and the whole compound to play as a person with the disability.
Now, looking at the results we managed to receive this year from primary 7 candidates, looking backwards as well, the years past, and looking at the current results, where do you see the inclusive education, or how do you see the performance of these persons or learners with disabilities in the future?
It is promising. Looking at the years back and now, it is very promising. First of all, starting with the people that register for the examinations and the people that sit, the numbers of ungraded learners compared to the learners that have sat for PLE, learners with disabilities, are reducing. And that is very promising. And the absenteeism, if you compare to the past years and you compare to the numbers of the ones that sat, is also reducing. But we need to do more investigation on absenteeism, because it is not a problem for only learners with disabilities and special needs, but you see that even the ordinary learners are absent for exams. For the recent release, you see that 1,463 learners that are ordinary, they do not have any special need, they did not come to do their examinations. And you can see that about 64,251 learners, ordinary learners, are ungraded. Yeah, that is a concern. As much as we are advocating for inclusive education, we are concerned about the entire society. Why are they so many ungraded? Why are they so many being absent for the examinations? So we want the whole society to benefit from education, with an emphasis of not leaving anyone behind. All right, now unfortunately time is up. We have to wind up, and I will request you to give us your last remarks as we head out, just briefly. Thank you so much, Family TV, for hosting NUDIPU and for always calling on us to be part of the issues at hand. That shows how inclusive you are, and to the society out there, it is our role to ensure that all learners benefit from the education system. The education system is not just what the government does, it starts from the community, the parents. What role are you doing to ensure that your child is in school, and be part of this advocacy? Advocate for the needs of your child. Make sure you let the school know what your child needs. For the schools, we are asking the administrators to be inclusive enough while they implement, while they plan. So it is very important that we all have equity in education, because our vision as NUDIPU is a society that is inclusive in nature. Yes, universal accessible designs for education. Thank you so much again for hosting me on Family TV.
All right, thank you so much. It has been a wonderful pleasure to have you, Miss Seera Leah Diana, who is an inclusive education officer at NUDIPU. We really appreciate the insights and also congratulate you for the results that have been scored this year, and we look forward to the next levels. We shall also have to bring you back to tell us about the senior 4 and also the other levels. So please, we appreciate that every time we call upon, you're always here to give us the information. Thank you as well for keeping it to Church of Uganda Family TV. I want to appreciate you a lot. We are powered by Protea Hotel by Marriott in Entebbe. My name is Luke Majumba A, and I want to wish you a lovely day. Please be safe.
Issues at hand, powered by
Protea